wife shouted in her room. I disgust you, don't I? You can't even look at my face. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Zone Stories. Today we have a story where this woman was walking alone like a crazy person when her husband told her he will divorce her soon. Let's see how this story ended. It has been over 6 months since D-Day, 5 months since divorce, and I still need some advice. I do not have enough time to tell my full story, but here is what I can tell you. Married 5 years, had a great life. We had made the choice to not have kids until we were both 35. I pretty much caught her having bedroom activity with her partner in our bedroom. I had been pretty clear about my views on infidelity right from when we started dating, and I had told her very clearly that cheating was a complete no-no for me. I stayed calm throughout the entire ordeal. I asked her to get dressed. I called up her elder sister who lived in a nearby town and asked her to pick my wife up. I blocked her on all platforms and talked to my lawyer about the divorce proceedings. They drove back to my house the next day, and she immediately threw herself onto me and started crying profusely. She wanted me to give her a chance to explain herself, even though I did not really want to hear any of it, and my answer would still be divorce whether she cheated 100 times or just once. I sat down with her and asked her some questions. My first question was it an emotional affair or a physical one? She seemed to be stupefied for a good 5 or 6 seconds before tears started streaming down her face, and she whined about how I could even think she would have an emotional affair with someone else other than me, and swore it was a purely physical one. My second question was, were you unsatisfied in our marriage in any way? She claimed she wasn't. She was incredibly happy with both our life and our financial status. What was the reason then? I don't know, she said, and absolutely broke down. She got on her knees and said she feels disgusted with herself. She said she was going through a lot since she wasn't doing well in her job, and she wanted to validate her own importance in her mind. She often talked to me about her job too. I supported her wholeheartedly, and she was also going to therapy for it. Even though I did not understand her reason, I did not poke much into it. How many times were you physically involved? She told me it was only 3 times of physical contact, and she had apparently never allowed him to caress her. I don't know if that was supposed to make me feel better about it. With that, I was done. I told her that I wanted a divorce. Surprisingly, she did not say anything. She just nodded and went to the guest room and locked herself up with her sister. Unfortunately, though, before I could serve her the divorce papers, our district went into lockdown and travel between districts was prohibited. Thus, in an unfortunate turn of events, it seemed I would need to spend a full week with my wife in the same house, and I could not even file for divorce because the courts were closed. But I was not having that. I decided to move out and live in my neighbor's house instead, and that helped somewhat. I would still see her every day. Dark circles, swollen eyes, she looked nothing like before. One day, she got too drunk, and I heard her shouting in her room, I disgust you, don't I? You can't even look at my face. And she repeated that the whole night. Another day, I bumped into her talking to someone on the phone in the footpath in front of our house, and she immediately started freaking out and screamed, I was not talking to him, I promise. It was just my colleague from work. A while later, she seemed to realize her mistake and walked away without another word. A week later, they moved away, and I moved back into my house. I got done with the divorce about a month later. Bizarrely, she did not demand anything from me in the settlement. 6 months later, she would still text me and call me sometimes. She once drove over 50 miles to see me when I was ill with COVID. I have not been doing very well. I do still love her. The way she was truly mournful of her mistakes sometimes almost made me feel for her again. But on other times, I just want to cut her off completely and start afresh. I am not sure if I would be able to love or marry again, but I did get along with a few hookups in the last 2 weeks or so, and to be honest, it does feel better somewhat. I do not know if I can move on if we keep talking. I have told her not to talk to me, but she does not listen. Should I just block her everywhere? I really do not want to hurt her, but she has not left me any option. What should I do? So I did exactly what I had intended to do. I called her up and told her that I wished to go completely no contact for a few months. For a few seconds, I heard nothing on her end, long enough for me to ask her if she even heard me. She said she did hear me and started fumbling for words once again. I explained to her that it was not any fault of her. It was just me that was finding it difficult to move on with my life if we kept talking. She said she understood and promised not to contact me. Before hanging up, she asked me if I was planning on completely cutting her off. I bluntly told her that I was not planning to do so at the moment, but I might change my decision in the future. She told me it was alright, that I deserved to do whatever I needed to get over it, and told me that she would try to find a new job during these months. With that, I bid her farewell and proceeded to block her on all platforms. A few hours later, her sister called me up. She told me I had made a good decision, especially since ex-wife needed this no contact period too. She only did a part-time job, hardly ever went out, and spent the entire day going through old pictures. Thus, at least for the moment, I feel like I have made a good decision. A lot of people have messaged me asking me several questions that were left untouched in the original post. Here, I would like to clear out some. How long has the affair been going on? According to her, they first had bedroom activity when she went on a work-related trip to another city, which was about 1 month before D-Day. Now, she claims there was no tension between them before this trip. But on the other hand, they had been working together in the same office for about 3 months, so I really can't tell if she's lying. How did she behave in the days before D-Day and immediately after it? In the few weeks before D-Day, when her affair was ongoing, I did not really notice anything out of the ordinary. I am generally a very perceptive individual. The usual signs of an affair, such as increased conflict, anger, blaming, trying to keep one's phone close by at all times, I did not notice any of it with her. In fact, she only grew quieter every day. I figured it was because of the problems she was facing in work and had a good talk with her. She hugged my chest and cried for several minutes, and I did my best in comforting her. We also had a lot of bedroom activity that week, as we usually did every week. I feel kind of embarrassed saying this, but we did a role play of her as a criminal and me as a policeman, who caught her and then had forceful bedroom activity with her. It was her idea. In hindsight, it does make some kind of sense now, though it kinda messed me up. Apart from that, I noticed nothing out of the ordinary. On the day of discovery, she was dazed throughout the ordeal. It seemed her brain was switched off. She just looked at me with wide eyes, tears streaming down, and just nodded when I told her to wait for her elder sister while I left back to work. Later, sister-in-law later called me up to tell me that ex-wife was nowhere to be found. I was preparing to go out in search of her when she called again to tell that she found ex-wife walking around in a dazed state around our neighborhood. She was either searching for me or for her partner. I don't know which. In her sister's house, she apparently also tried to harm herself physically, but then calmed down and had some rest. Is she still talking to her partner? This is one point that I failed to mention in my original post. She quit her job immediately after D-Day. According to her, she could not bear to see partner there every day. I had anticipated that she would use this opportunity to ask for a heavy stipulation from the divorce, which made it even more bizarre that she didn't. Was she really talking to her partner on the phone when you stumbled upon her on the footpath? Frankly, I don't know and I haven't asked. How was your relationship after the divorce? We did have a no contact period of about 1 week after the divorce. Later, she called me up and asked me if I could consider keeping a friendly relationship with her. I saw no harm in it, so I agreed. We agreed that we would not talk about the divorce or our married life. We just asked each other about work and about how we were doing. As for the frequency of contact, I would say minimum 1 or 2 texts per day maybe, and sometimes none for days. Sometimes we would talk over call, but not for long periods. We never met physically. She did once drive over when I was ill, but was not allowed to actually meet me physically, because I was in the isolation ward. Have you tried therapy? Of course, I have been in therapy since D-Day. Ex-wife went to a therapist for the first 2 months after the divorce, but then stopped going for no apparent reason. Some people in the comment section seemed to misunderstand my original post. They kept posting comments asking me to consider reconciliation. I would like to reiterate that my original post was about whether I should block her or not, and not about reconciliation. I made the decision to not reconcile a long time ago, and ex-wife has accepted it. It is not about how much she regrets and mourns over it. I am simply incapable of trusting her again. Once again, a very sincere thanks to everyone who commented. It seems very apparent that she wants contact with hopes of something more. The time has come for 100% no contact in any form. She must understand that there is no chance for reconciliation, and the only way to do that is completely cut the cord. For his own mental health and hers, he must go absolute no contact. In order to stop the cycle, it's important to look at yourself. I'm not choosing sides as I have been in both positions. There's a difference between guilt and regret. Guilt we carry with us and comes with the what if only, should have, etc. It's literally drinking poison hoping the other person dies. Regret means we know we made a mistake and how we've made the mistake, but have learned from that mistake. And in turn, it's actually a lesson we've grown from. This is why it's important to take a long, hard look at where you might have taken part in the circumstances. We can't control others, but in the future, we can control what we do, and how current lessons have helped us become a better us for tomorrow. I hope you find healing, and once you do, you'll draw and love much better than you've experienced, because you'll be in a better position to understand how these lessons have improved your overall outlook. I just recently broke up with my fiancé about a week ago. We have been together for 6 years and engaged for 2 years. We're set to be married this fall, and I canceled everything. It is hard to summarize everything that went down, but basically the closer we got to the wedding date, the colder my feet got. I was very young when we started dating, and this is my very first relationship. At the start of our relationship, I put up with things that I would never put up with now. We met through online dating, and our very first date was whirlwind. He wanted to date right away, and even put a picture of us together as his profile picture after our date. Looking back, it was weird how fast he did that. But he was young too. I loved the attention, because for the first time I knew how someone felt about me without any doubt, unlike dates I had been on previously. We started dating 9 days later in July 2016. However, we were long distance because of college, and we could see each other infrequently. 2 weeks passed by, and I go onto the dating app to delete it, just to notice that he has changed his bio to something like, "Looking for someone in my area," which made me realize that he was still actively using the account. I get furious, want to break it off, and he drives 2 hours to me to console me and make things better. "This works," I cry. He holds me, promises me whatever he did, can't remember what he said now, and we are back together. This, however, was only the start of emotional cheating that would occur over the entirety of the fall semester. Texting random girls, his ex, dating apps, etc. Same kind of ordeal. I get mad. He consoles me. It gets better. I am completely and utterly infatuated though. Fast forward to January 2017. I transfer to his college. I had plans to transfer to this college before I met him, and when I did start dating him, I decided to wait to transfer, so it didn't look like I was leaving for him. I was unhappy at my previous college. He helps me move in. Everything is great, until he accidentally leaves his laptop. I go on it, and find dirty pictures of him and girls on Omegle, Skype, etc. I am shattered. I really want to break up with him, as this is yet another show of infidelity, but now I have pictures of him burned into my mind. I drive to his apartment with the laptop. He cries, and blames it on how he has been so lonely, and how his ex made him feel worthless, that he looks for gratification through online encounters. He suggests couples therapy. I am impressed that he recognizes his fault and offers a solution. So, we start couples therapy, and it's great even though there are a few mishaps during it. More emotional cheating. Crazy to think we were in therapy before a year into our relationship. Anyway, therapy continues over that year and finally finishes. I have an understanding of him and why he did what he did. He promises to change, and I feel as though there was nothing more for me out of it than this understanding. Can't change that this happened to me. I have this intense fear of ending therapy, but we do, and we are better than ever. We start talking about moving in together, as we had been basically living together for 6 months. I am excited for saving money, being with someone I love, and if I'm being completely honest, I have this idea that I can keep him from cheating with the proximity. Things are good except now he is out of school, can't find a job, and I am financially supporting him. I do everything from buying and keeping track of it all, because he won't do it. New strain on relationship. I wonder if I can get out, but my family doesn't know we live together because they would disown me. And now he owes me a lot of money. He eventually pays it off, goes back to school for a good job, things are looking better. I still have thoughts about how I don't trust him and how I feel trapped. I think things like, well, if I want to leave, I'll do it when the lease ends or I graduate, etc. Time goes on though, and I push these thoughts aside. Then at the almost 4-year mark, he proposes, and I say yes. At this point, I'm starting school for the career I really want. I tell him that I do not want to spend my time in school planning a big wedding. I want him to be involved. I want a small, cost-effective wedding. I want things to be simple. Well, it turns out to be everything I don't want, because he pushes more and more and more. I end up planning everything. It's a big, expensive wedding, extravagant honeymoon that he wants. I end up resenting him for this. I feel he has failed me as a partner. As well as this, I keep having to nag him to keep up with work around the house. He talks about having a family and children, and it gives me such an ick, because I can see how that might go. I will yet again overfunction and he will underfunction. Fast forward to now. I start thinking about the past 6 years and all that it has entailed. Mind you, we have a great relationship. He truly loves me and is my best friend. We are each other's entire world and enjoy looking to the future together. We do everything together. But I don't want to go through with the wedding. I want to postpone. I bring this up twice, 2 separate occasions, and somehow the conversation leads to breaking up. We separate. I go to my sister's for a while to decide what to do. We are still talking about how we love each other, what we could do, how hard it is to be broken up. Finally, I decide enough is enough, and I get my stuff out of the house, grab the cats, and go home. I spend the next week in utter despair. It feels like my heart has been ripped out of my chest. I can't stop vomiting. I move in with my dad, and it's just depressing. In a moment of weakness, I reach back out and here we go again. I go to the house to get more of my things, and we just cry and cry. He is promising he will change, wait for me, whatever I need, and that we can go back to therapy. I so badly want to believe him and make things work. I miss how simple things were. But I don't know, because I still hold so much resentment in my heart for things that have happened. At this point, 5 years ago, part of me feels ridiculous for still holding on to them. In a way, it feels unfair to both of us. We are both longing for something impossible, for that to have never had happened. We are long distance again. If we are even anything right now, I don't know, but he wants us to be. And I am feeling the same fear that I did so long ago. I want to add that I am in therapy for all of this, but I feel like my life is in a standstill. What do? I can't imagine being with someone else or dating again at 25. It makes me sick. I just love him so much even with all of the problems listed above. I don't know if anyone has any words of wisdom, but it's driving me crazy and I'd love to hear it. Her trust was broken in this relationship, and this is the reason that she ended it. She can't trust him, and this will never change. She can't get married at this point, since she knows it won't work, as she will always be thinking he is cheating behind her back. What she did was the correct way out of this relationship. She must get herself together and work on her physical and mental health. She will know when she is ready to date again. It sounds like you carried this fellow for a long time. You sound so committed and dedicated, but yet it really doesn't sound like he appreciates any of it at all. I think you are very strong for calling off the wedding. That takes a lot of guts. This man sounds like he may be out of your league. That sounds harsh, but from what you are describing, he sounds immature and stunted. I can't say whether you should write him off completely. However, I would suggest if there's any chance of this being repaired, he has to do the heavy lifting. Not you. You've done enough by the sounds of it. Don't fall for the tears. They may be genuine, but sometimes the tears aren't about them feeling bad for hurting you. They're a result of the walls closing in on them. It's frustration and feeling sorry about their own suffering. You are still very young. Just take a break from this guy, a break from any romantic relationship. Focus on yourself for a bit. Keep your heart open, and you may find someone worthy of you sooner than you think.